Hey lads, today I want to talk about a book and a movie. The movie I have watched, I actually watched it back when it came out, a long time ago. As it turns out, 2 decades ago was when this movie came out. And I've also read the book now that the movie is based on. And the movie and the book are both called Confessions of a Dangerous Mind. And it's subtitled as an unauthorized autobiography of Chuck Barris. Chuck Barris, for those too young to know, was a prominent game show creator in the 60s and 70s. He came up with the Newlywed Game, the Dating Game, and a few other shows. And the one that actually means the most to me, and that I have the fondest memories of, because it was a show that I loved as a kid, is The Gong Show. The premise of The Gong Show was that you came on where they had three sort of semi-celebrity judges, like not huge high profile, but semi high profile people, and the host, and it was just this very wacky, kind of crazy, sort of campy atmosphere. And they brought on all kinds of acts that were really, really bad, like hilariously bad. Now, sometimes they were good, but often they were bad. And it was the bad acts, it was the terrible acts that really made the show. It was what made the show entertaining. This was kind of the first show like that, which featured, really completely untalented people just being on, just going for it, and doing, maybe if looked at a certain way, really humiliating things. But from their point of view, it's all in good fun. Most of them knew that they weren't any good, but it was just wanting attention, wanting to be on TV, kind of thing. If the act was bad enough, they would gong it. Hence the name The Gong Show. There was a gong, on the stage, and at some point, while we're watching the act go, part of the fun of the show is if it's really somebody who's really bad, or whatever, or it's just crazy, or just off kilter, which a lot of the show was. It was just a crazy show. Part of the fun would be watching the judges react, and then sort of make up their minds about whether they want to gong this person or not. A lot of people actually got through. Even though they were bad, they still got through without being gonged, and then they just got low scores. If they didn't get gonged, then the judges would give them scores from 1 to 10. And the ones who were actually talented just got high scores, and they won. And the stakes weren't that high. It was back then. It wasn't really like they wouldn't give you the world. You wouldn't win a dream vacation or anything like that. But anyway, I'm dwelling on The Gong Show a little bit here because for me, it was just, I was too young to get a lot of the double entendres and stuff. But I think looking back now, it was really a product of its time. And I've talked before about how today, everything that you see, everything that's presented to us on television, whether it's in sports, or on television with game shows or wherever, whenever it comes from some glossy official quote unquote source, like a moneyed network or something like that, it's today it's going to be very streamlined, very contrived, very controlled, very corporate-esque, corporate-y. And really, in the late 70s, it wasn't like that at all. You had a lot more wild and crazy kind of stuff going on, in front of your eyes. And it was a better time, I think. just this isn't just me waxing nostalgic. There was a lot wrong with that time as well. It was not an ideal time in any sense, but it was a lot better than the way things are today. I humbly submit. Now, the reason I'm talking about The Gong Show and Chuck Barris and this book and this movie, Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, is because the book, when it was written, and again, it's an unauthorized autobiography. I mean, that's kind of a weird title. Is it possible to write an unauthorized autobiography? Like, if the person writing, if you're writing about your own experiences, then aren't you the one who gets to sign off on whether it's authorized or not? I've heard of unauthorized biographies, but an unauthorized autobiography is something else entirely. And the big twist in this book, and which was later made into a movie, is that in the book, Chuck Barris confesses, hence the title Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, confesses that he spent much of his career actually as an assassin for the CIA, and that his game show persona worked as a front, and that for example, with the dating game or with the Newlywed Game, they had sometimes when it was an evening show, they would give away they would actually give away dream vacations, in spite of what I was saying before. It was usually cheap prizes, but they sometimes, for these special shows, because it did well enough ratings wise, it was enough of a sensation, both of these shows were, that they put them on once a week at night, and for the night shows it was more of a formal kind of thing, and they threw more money at it, and they would often the winners would get to go to foreign, beautiful, cities in foreign countries, so you get a weekend in Paris, or a weekend in London, or a weekend in Vienna, or a weekend in West Berlin. It was crazy, but again, the point, the story of the book is that these trips functioned as a means by which Chuck Barris could slip into his other persona and become a CIA assassin. And it blends really well. The thing is, you're kind of left with this question, well, this might have been just this crazy conceit for a book, and Chuck Barris is just having the ultimate laugh on us, because he was a guy who loved a good practical joke, or so his persona would suggest. And so this is kind of him, playing a trick with us, and coming up with this outlandish kind of story. The thing is, it reads very plausibly. It reads very credibly. To me, it does. Anyway, when I read the book, recently, it came across like he was actually doing these things. It didn't have any kind of farcical, like, giveaways that anything that sort of suggested that, oh well, this is just fantasy, this is just like I don't know, something you would see in a crazy psychedelic movie or something like that. He's very credible, as in saying this is the life that he led, and the movie that's made takes it seriously as well. Now, was it real or was it not real? That's a question I think Chuck Barris himself took to his grave. He would not comment on, he wouldn't say one way or the other. And what I think is interesting is, I'm kind of 50-50 on whether I believe it or not. But the things that point me to actually believing that he's really telling the truth about it are, it would work as a good cover. And he was, accompanying these couples on these crazy trips, mostly to European capitals, European cities, where there's probably a lot of espionage going on. And he really did, have the truth is he really did, have these prizes, these trips that they would give away, which would be to, and they really did send like couples to, they had to be chaperoned, of course, because at the time, it was still thought of as not good for people. If it was the dating game, it was thought of as not good to facilitate fornication, even though I'm sure a lot of fornication was taking place all over the place. But they had to officially say, that they weren't sanctioning it. But they really were going to places like West Berlin, which is like, I know Berlin is is one of the great cities of the world and everything, but that seems like an odd place to send a couple. Like, why not send them to Hawaii? Why not send them to Fiji? If it's about romance, I get Paris. For romance, maybe not so much today, but back then Paris was still Paris. But still, there's stuff going on at the time with the Cold War in full swing. There are spies afoot, and so forth. And so that really kind of makes it seem like a very credible kind of cover. Now, something that's in the movie but is not in the book, which is interesting, is a moment where George Clooney, who also directed the movie, and plays the role of basically the recruiter, the mystery man who came into Chuck Barris's life and offered him this job. He tells him, your father is actually, at one point, the evidence shows that your father is actually a serial killer, that the man you knew as your father isn't your biological father. And he also talks about how in the first few years of his life, his mother, who was not very mentally healthy, treated him like a girl, and dressed him like a girl, and played girly games with him, and so forth. I don't know whether that's true. I don't know whether those claims have been made by Chuck Barris, or if that was just something that was thrown in, just to give his character this kind of depth, or make him a little more mysterious, or make him seem like somebody who would enjoy violence. Because in the book, he never has much of a moral qualm about just killing people. Sometimes he justifies it in his mind by thinking, I'm being patriotic, I'm doing a patriotic duty, and these are enemies of America. And sometimes he knows things about them, but sometimes he doesn't. And so that adds a whole another wrinkle to the whole story that's very, very intriguing. And I guess ultimately what I'm going to say here is, could the CIA have recruited a game show host to be an assassin? What we know now, like, stranger things have happened. Much stranger things have happened than that. And this isn't just truth is stranger than fiction kind of stuff. We know things about the deep state. We know things about how they operate. We know things about those of us in the know, those of us who pay attention to such things. We know things like Operation Northwoods. We know that crazy stuff is going on, has been going on all the time. Not just crazy stuff, but evil stuff. Diabolical stuff has been going on for a long, long time. So within that context of things, it seems to me that it is plausible that Chuck Barris could have led this double life. It's still crazy, but crazy things are often true. And like I said in the book, it's made to seem plausible. It's not played for a joke. So I don't know. It's interesting. But the movie is a pretty faithful interpretation of the book, and I would recommend it. I don't know. I just sort of wanted to talk about it because it's intriguing. So even though it's not really topical. So anyway, if y'all have seen it, or if you have thoughts about the whole matter, please leave your comments below, and thanks for watching.